Your support keeps these stories alive. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell.
My name is Daniel. I am 28 years old, and until a few months ago, I believed I had finally found the kind of love people spend their entire lives searching for. I met Claire 2 years ago at a friend's birthday dinner. She was radiant, with her dark hair falling in loose curls and her laughter filling the room like music. I remember thinking, this woman is out of my league, yet somehow she chose me. I wasn't rich, not by any means, but I was doing well for myself. I worked as a project manager for a mid-sized construction firm, earning a stable salary and slowly saving for the future. I had managed to buy a small but comfortable condo with my own money, and I had no debts. Claire, on the other hand, came from money. Her parents were wealthy business owners who made their fortune in real estate. From the very beginning, there was this subtle gap between us, not just financially, but in the way she carried herself. She was used to luxury, to dinners at fine restaurants, to vacations abroad. Still, she never acted like I wasn't enough. Or at least, that's what I believed. Our relationship grew fast. Within a year, we moved in together. By the time the second year came around, I was convinced she was the one. I bought a ring, nothing flashy, just a classic gold band with a diamond I could afford after months of saving, and I proposed during a trip to the mountains. She cried, hugged me, and said yes without hesitation. That night, as we sat by the fireplace, I imagined our future, marriage, maybe children growing old together. It felt perfect. But perfection has a way of cracking the moment you look too closely. A month into our engagement, Claire started mentioning her parents more and more. Her mother wanted to be involved in the wedding planning. Her father insisted we host the reception at their country estate, and they were both pushing for a guest list of nearly 200 people. I wanted something smaller, but every time I brought it up, Claire brushed me off. "It's just how things are in my family," she'd say. "They're used to doing things big." I went along with it, even though it made me uncomfortable. I told myself compromise was part of marriage. But then came the moment that nearly destroyed me. One evening, Claire handed me a stack of papers. We were sitting at the kitchen table, dinner plates pushed aside. She smiled nervously and said, "Babe, my parents think it would be a good idea for us to sign a prenup." I blinked at her, unsure if I'd heard correctly. "A prenup? Why?" She reached for my hand. "It's nothing personal. It's just, you know how my family is. They've worked hard for what they have, and they want to protect it. It doesn't mean I don't love you." I nodded slowly, trying to hide the sting. I wasn't after her family's money, and I would have been fine with a fair agreement. But when I opened the document and began reading, my heart froze. The prenup wasn't fair. It was a trap. According to the terms, if we ever divorced, I would walk away with nothing. Not even the condo I had purchased long before meeting Claire. Everything would be considered shared marital property. And yet the contract explicitly stated that all of Claire's family assets would remain hers alone. Even worse, there was a clause about spousal support. I would be ineligible, no matter the circumstances. It was written in cold legal language, but the message was clear. If our marriage ended, I would lose everything I had worked for, while she would keep it all. I remember staring at the papers, my hands trembling. "Claire, this can't be serious. This document wipes out everything I've built on my own." She avoided my eyes, fiddling with her hair. "It's just legal stuff, Daniel. My dad's lawyer drafted it. You don't have to worry if we stay together forever. It won't even matter." That was the first time a chill ran down my spine when I looked at her. I realized she hadn't even considered how insulting this was, how much it implied she or her family didn't trust me. I stayed quiet that night, unable to sleep. I kept thinking about how quickly love can turn into leverage, how trust can be twisted into paperwork. The next day, I told her I wouldn't sign. That was when things got ugly. Claire's face hardened, like I had never seen before. She accused me of being paranoid, of not believing in our love. She even cried, saying I was breaking her heart. But behind those tears, I could see something else. Anger. A cold, sharp anger that scared me. And that was only the beginning. The The morning after I refused to sign the prenup, I woke up to silence. Claire wasn't in bed. When I walked into the kitchen, I found her sitting at the table, a cup of coffee untouched in front of her, the papers neatly stacked at her side. Her eyes were red, but there was no softness in them anymore. She didn't say good morning. She didn't smile. Instead, she slid the prenup back toward me and said, "We need to talk." Her voice was calm, too calm, that kind of calm that hides a storm. "I already told you, Claire," I said, pulling out a chair across from her. "I can't sign that. It's not fair." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "It's not about fair, Daniel. It's about security. My parents just want to make sure—" "Your parents?" I cut her off. "This isn't about them. This is supposed to be about us. Why are they dictating what happens in our marriage?" That struck a nerve. Her cheeks flushed, and she looked away. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "If you really love me, you'll sign it." Those words hit me like a punch to the chest. If you really love me, as though my commitment, my loyalty, my plans for a lifetime together could be reduced to a signature on a piece of paper. I wanted to shout, to tell her how cruel that sounded, but I held it in. Instead, I said, "If you really love me, you wouldn't ask me to give up everything I've worked for." That ended the conversation. She got up, grabbed her purse, and slammed the door behind her. The days that followed were unbearable. Claire avoided me, barely speaking unless it was about wedding logistics. When she did speak, it was cold, clipped, and often laced with guilt trips. "My parents are starting to wonder if you're really serious about me. Everyone signs prenups these days, it's normal. Why are you making this so hard?" Finally, one evening, she came home with reinforcements. We were in the living room when the doorbell rang. To my surprise, her parents walked in behind her. Her father, a tall man with a commanding presence, shook my hand firmly but without warmth. Her mother barely acknowledged me, sitting down like she owned the place. Claire wasted no time. "Dad, Mom, Daniel still doesn't want to sign the prenup." Her father's expression darkened. He looked at me like I was some reckless teenager dating his daughter, not a grown man who had built his own life. "Daniel," he said, "this isn't complicated. You either sign, or you prove to us that you're only interested in Claire for her money." I clenched my jaw. "With all due respect, sir, I've never asked for a dime from your family. I bought my condo on my own. I pay my own bills. I love your daughter, not your bank account." Her mother scoffed. "That's what they all say." I felt my blood boiling. "They?" I asked sharply. Her mother leaned forward, her voice dripping with disdain. "You don't come from our world, Daniel. You don't understand what it's like. People try to take advantage of us, and we can't risk Claire's future on someone who won't cooperate." At that moment, it hit me they had never accepted me. All those polite dinners, those smiles that never reached their eyes, those comments about how lucky I was to be with Claire, it had all been a facade. "I'm not signing it," I said firmly. Her father stood up, his voice rising. "Then maybe this marriage isn't happening." Claire's face twisted in panic. "Dad, please." But he cut her off. "No, Claire. If he can't respect our conditions, then he doesn't respect you. This is over." I sat there in shock, my heart pounding in my chest. Was this what my relationship had come to? Was I really being forced to choose between the woman I loved and my own dignity? Claire turned to me then, tears streaming down her face. "Daniel, just sign it. Please, don't ruin this for us." I looked at her. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I wanted to spend my life with, and for the first time, I saw someone else entirely. Someone willing to sacrifice my future to keep her family happy. I stood up slowly, my voice trembling but steady enough to cut through the room. "If you think love is measured by what I'm willing to give up, then maybe you never loved me at all." Her father smirked, like he had been waiting for me to say it. Her mother shook her head in disgust, and Claire, she just sat there, sobbing, unable to look me in the eye. That was the night I packed a bag and left. Driving away from the condo, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight they ached, I felt both shattered and strangely free. I had just walked away from the woman I thought would be my wife, but I had also walked away from a trap. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I didn't know if I would ever recover from the heartbreak. But I knew one thing for sure. I had chosen myself. And for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. When I left that night, I drove without any real destination. The city lights blurred past me, but I wasn't seeing them. My chest felt hollow. My thoughts, a mess. I replayed the confrontation over and over in my head, the cold words of her father, the way her mother looked at me like I was beneath them, and worst of all, the desperation in Claire's eyes as she begged me to sign. I ended up at my best friend Mark's apartment. He was the one guy I knew I could call at any hour. When I knocked on his door, he opened it in sweatpants, holding a beer. "Jesus, man," he said, taking one look at me. "What the hell happened?" I barely got the words out. She tried to trap me, Mark. A prenup that left me with nothing. And when I refused, her parents said the wedding's off. Mark pulled me inside without another word. I sat on his couch, staring at the floor while he handed me a drink. He let me talk. And for the next hour, I spilled everything. The contract, the fight, the ultimatum. By the time I was done, my throat was dry, and Mark was shaking his head. "I'm going to be real with you," he said. "You dodged a bullet. That family doesn't see you as a person, man. They see you as an obstacle to control." His words stung, but they were true. Deep down, I already knew it. Still, part of me couldn't let go of Claire. I kept thinking about the good times, the vacations we took, the nights we spent talking until dawn, the way she used to look at me like I was her entire world. How could all of that have been fake? The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. Claire had called 10 times. There were texts, too, ranging from tearful apologies to furious accusations. "Please come back. We can work this out." Then another. "You're being selfish, Daniel. My parents were only trying to protect me." I didn't reply. Later that day, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, it was her father. His voice was clipped, businesslike. "Daniel, I want to make this clear. You're not welcome around our family unless you agree to our conditions. If you truly care for Claire, you'll stop this nonsense and do what's right." Something inside me snapped. "What's right?" I shot back. "What's right would be respecting your daughter enough to let her make her own choices. What's right would be not trying to strip me of everything I've built. If you think I'll bow down to you, you don't know me at all." I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but for the first time in days, I felt a flicker of strength. The weeks that followed were brutal. Word spread fast among our friends and coworkers that the engagement was off. Some people reached out to support me, saying they admired me for standing my ground. Others whispered behind my back, convinced I must have done something wrong. The hardest part was the loneliness. I had invested so much of myself in Claire that without her, my world felt empty. Nights were the worst. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had made a mistake. Should I have compromised? Should I have signed, just to keep her? Then, one evening, Mark showed up at my condo with a folder in his hand. "You need to see this," he said grimly. Inside were screenshots, forwarded by a mutual acquaintance who still followed Claire on social media. They showed Claire out at dinners, drinking champagne, smiling wide as if nothing had happened. But the captions cut deeper than the images. "Dodged a broke boy." Some men just can't handle a strong woman with standards. I felt sick. This wasn't the Claire I knew, or maybe it was, and I had been blind all along. Mark clapped me on the shoulder. "She's showing her true colors, brother. Believe it." A week later, another revelation hit me like a freight train. I got a call from Emily, one of Claire's college friends. We weren't close, but we'd spoken a few times at parties. She sounded nervous, almost hesitant. "Daniel," she said softly, "I don't know if I should be telling you this, but you deserve to know. Well, this isn't the first time she's pulled something like this. She was engaged once before, a few years back. It ended because she and her family pushed the same kind of prenup on the guy. He walked away too. They never tell people about it." My stomach dropped. "Are you serious?" Dead serious, Emily replied. She acts like it never happened, but everyone close to her knows. Her parents don't see marriage as love, Daniel. They see it as a contract, a business move. I didn't want you to think it was your fault. When I hung up, I sat there in stunned silence. All those months, all those promises, all those moments I thought were genuine, had they all been rehearsed, a pattern she had played out before? The anger I felt that night wasn't the hot, explosive kind. It was cold, steady, like a fire that burns slow but never goes out. For the first time, I realized that walking away hadn't just saved me from a bad marriage, it had saved me from repeating the same trap some other poor man had already fallen into. By the end of that month, I stopped answering Claire's calls entirely. She showed up once at my condo, pounding on the door, crying, begging me to talk. I stood on the other side, my hand on the handle, my heart aching. But I didn't open it, because now I understood. Love isn't about contracts. It isn't about ultimatums or signatures. And if someone tries to measure your worth by what you're willing to give up, then it isn't love at all. The day I decided to block Claire's number felt like ripping off a bandage I'd been clinging to for too long. My chest tightened when I pressed the button, but almost immediately after, there was a strange sense of calm. It was like closing the door to a storm I'd been standing in for weeks. Still, the silence that followed was heavy. I had built so much of my daily life around her, texting her in the morning, making dinner together, talking late into the night. Without that routine, my condo felt like a hollow box. Every corner reminded me of her, the throw blanket she bought, the wine glasses she insisted we needed, even the faint perfume scent that clung to my couch cushions. I tried to distract myself. I poured myself into work, staying late at the office, volunteering for extra projects just so I wouldn't have to face the emptiness waiting at home. Mark dragged me out a few nights, insisting I needed to get back out there, but I wasn't ready. Every woman I met seemed like a shadow of what I thought I had with Claire, and the idea of starting all over exhausted me. But slowly, something began to shift. One Saturday morning, I dug through an old box in my closet and found my guitar, the same one I used to play in college, before life got too busy. My fingers stumbled on the strings at first, but within an hour, the muscle memory returned. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of joy that had nothing to do with Claire. I started running again too, pounding the pavement until my lungs burned and my legs ached. The physical pain was better than the emotional one, and with each mile, the heaviness inside me lightened. Piece by piece, I was reclaiming the man I had been before her. Then came the letter. It arrived on a Tuesday evening, tucked between bills and junk mail. My stomach dropped when I saw the familiar handwriting on the envelope. I almost tossed it in the trash, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a 3-page letter from Claire. The first lines were tearful apologies, telling me she had made a mistake, that she had let her parents control her, that she was lost without me. She wrote about our memories, how much she missed waking up beside me, how she couldn't imagine marrying anyone else. But as I read further, the tone shifted. She admitted she was under pressure from her father. He had threatened to cut her off financially if she didn't secure a prenup. Without his support, she said, her entire lifestyle would collapse. No more fancy apartment, no more vacations, no more safety net. You don't understand what it's like to have everything at risk, she wrote. I wasn't trying to hurt you, Daniel. I was just scared. And then, at the very end, please, let's try again. We don't even need the prenup anymore. I'll talk to my dad. I'll make it right. Just give me another chance. I read that letter a dozen times. For a brief moment, my heart wavered. Could we fix this? Was there a world where Claire stood up to her family, chose me over money, and proved that our love was real? But then I remembered the dinners where her parents had insulted me. I remembered the smug look on her father's face when he said I wasn't welcome. I remembered her own words, if you really love me, you'll sign it. Love built on conditions isn't love. It's control. I folded the letter neatly, slid it back into the envelope, and locked it in a drawer. I didn't throw it away. I wasn't ready for that, but I knew I couldn't go back. A week later, Claire showed up in person. I was returning from a run when I saw her sitting on the steps outside my building. She looked nothing like the glamorous woman I remembered. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged, her clothes wrinkled. She stood quickly when she saw me, her eyes desperate. "Daniel, please," she begged, grabbing my arm. "I meant every word in that letter. I don't care about the prenup anymore. I just want you." I froze. Part of me wanted to believe her. But another part, the wiser, battle-scarred part, knew better. "Claire," I said softly, "if you really didn't care about the prenup, you would have fought for me when it mattered. Instead, you sided with your parents. You didn't just betray me, you betrayed us." Her face crumpled. "I was scared. You don't know what my dad is like. He controls everything. I thought if I didn't listen, I'd lose everything. But without you, I already have." I shook my head. "Claire, you lost me the moment you made my love conditional. I can forgive mistakes, but I can't build a life with someone who sees me as a risk instead of a partner." She sobbed, clutching at my shirt, but I gently pried her hands away. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. My heart still ached for her, but my soul knew the truth. Going back would destroy me. I turned and walked inside, leaving her crying on the steps. That night, lying in bed, I thought about how close I had come to signing away my future. If I had given in, I'd be trapped in a marriage where my worth was measured in dollars, not love. Instead, I had chosen myself, even though it meant being alone. And strangely, that realization brought me peace. For the first time in months, I slept through the night without waking up in a panic. It's strange how life has a way of falling apart and rebuilding itself in ways you don't expect. When Claire walked out of my life for the last time, I thought I would never recover. I thought I'd carry that wound forever, like a scar that refused to fade. But months passed, and slowly, day by day, I began to heal. I focused on the things I had neglected during my relationship. My career flourished because I finally had the energy to put into it. I earned a promotion at work, one that came with a significant raise. My boss even told me, "You seem sharper these days, Daniel, like a weight's been lifted." And he was right. Outside of work, I started traveling again, not to exotic 5-star resorts like I had with Claire, but to places that meant something to me. I drove across the state, camped under the stars, hiked mountains, and reconnected with the version of myself that didn't need anyone's approval. Mark and I grew closer too. He never once said "I told you so," but I knew he was proud that I had walked away. He reminded me that friendship is sometimes stronger than love, because it isn't built on conditions. One evening, about 6 months after everything ended, I bumped into Emily again, the friend of Claire's who had told me about her previous engagement. We met at a coffee shop by chance, and she smiled when she saw me. "You look good," she said. "Better than the last time we talked." I laughed. "Yeah, I guess I finally moved on." She leaned closer. "You did the right thing, Daniel. You know that, right?" I nodded. "I do now. But back then, it felt like the hardest choice of my life." "Sometimes the hardest choices save us from the biggest mistakes," she said. Her words stuck with me. Because the truth is, if I had caved, if I had signed that prenup just to keep the peace, I would have been signing away more than property or assets. I would have been signing away my dignity, my freedom, my future. Claire did try one last time. I received an email from her nearly a year after everything ended. It wasn't long, just a few lines. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I know I ruined everything. I hope you're happy. I'll always love you." For the first time, reading her words didn't hurt. I didn't feel anger or sadness. I just felt to nothing. She had become a chapter in my past, one that taught me a lesson I would never forget. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Today, I stand stronger than I ever was. Not because I avoided heartbreak, because I didn't. It tore me apart. But I rebuilt myself from the ground up. I learned that love without respect is just a cage. I learned that a partner who makes you prove your loyalty by surrendering your independence isn't a partner at all. They're a jailer. And most importantly, I learned that sometimes walking away isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you can do. I don't know what the future holds for me. Maybe I'll meet someone new, someone who values me for who I am rather than what I own. Maybe I'll stay single for a while and just keep building the life I deserve. But whatever happens, I know one thing for certain. I will never again let anyone trick me into believing that love means sacrificing everything I've worked for. Because love, real love, isn't about contracts or conditions. It's about trust, respect, and choosing each other every day without needing proof written on paper. I walked away from Claire, from her family's trap, from the prenup that would have stripped me of everything. And in doing so, I walked back into myself. And that more than any wedding, more than any ring, is the greatest victory I could ever claim.